Exercise 8. In this exercise, we take a look at the functionality in NX 8.5 when creating a loft. Essentially, we're going to create a boat that you see here. And you could use your own specs for this. This is one method. There's many methods inside NX that could allow you to do something very similar, if not maybe even easier, depending upon your skill level. Anyhow, as you can see here, it's going to be generated with a series of profiles that we're going to go ahead and generate, and we're going to try and copy and paste some of them and create this solid that you see here. So let's begin. First start with a new part file under model, and let's just go ahead and call this E8 and hit OK. We'll begin by first generating our planes. Now in the manual that's on Vertanu1, vertanux1.com, you could actually see some of the profiles here. Now initially, I've used this same exercise in other CAD systems, and here in NX I've discovered that you're actually better off to mirror the sketches. So until I get this corrected out of the manual, again this is the preliminary copy of the manual, you'll see I generate one half of the profile and then mirror it over. But in this case, actually don't follow the manual to a T. Actually, you want to mirror the sketches over, and then that will work a little bit better later on, because when you try and unite them, sometimes there's some issues with tolerance between the two geometries. Okay, so we'll start though by going to the datum plane tool, and we want at a distance, we're going to go ahead and set, we want it to be negative, in this case, negative 6, negative 8, negative 1. So we select this little plane here, the XZ. Okay. And you can see it, you can set it right here. You can actually drag it if you like and get it right to 6, and then hit apply. Click on it again, do the same thing, or you could type in the value of negative 8, zoom out a little bit, hit apply, and click on that plane again, and the last one is the tip of the boat, which is going to be negative 1. Again, you could change these. You don't necessarily have to have them set to to these specs. And now you can see that we have the rear of the boat is actually going to be here where the datum coordinate system is, and then the center of the boat here, and then the tip of the boat over here. We're going to begin by sketching on the back side of the boat first. So we're going to go to begin sketch and select this XZ plane. And in this case, you could just go ahead and hit OK. And we'll begin with drawing one half. Like I said, we're going to mirror it over. You could draw the whole thing out, it's just that you have to remember you have to center it. So it's almost easier, especially with these splines, being that it's a symmetric object, to go ahead and just draw out a line here across, and about 2. We could actually, I believe, if we look at the manual, you can see it's going to be 2.5 by 2 inches high. So you can type in 2.5. And down here, click and drag this down, and by 2. Okay, now you could go to the spline tool down here, find Studio Splines. Alright, at this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to lock into this vertex here. We're going to click, and let's select the endpoint. And then right about here, what looks like a 45-degree angle, click again. And then in a little bit here, just again, we're just eyeballing it right now, click. And then finally get it to the endpoint of that line there. Okay, there are options. We're not going to go through those maybe in a more advanced lesson. We will, but right now, that's about all we want to do. Just hit OK. Now you'll see there are some dimensions here. It's probably not a bad idea if you want to follow along in the book. You could go ahead and match it up to this. So 2.5 wide, 1.5, 9.5. So let's drag those down. I'm just going to drag this down, drag this one down, and then you'll notice that this dimension isn't exactly what we want. When they're in red, that means you could add a different dimension to override that. So from this point here to this line, let's go ahead and add that dimension down there. And that needs to be 1.5. And then this one, just double click, and it's going to be 0.5. So you get like a little slope that's appearing there. Okay, now as far as these go, oops, drag that back, grab this over, drag it over here, click on the next dimension, drag it over, and the last dimension, drag that over. Again, we'll just follow the book here. You can see it's 2 by 1.5 by 1.25. This is 1.5, and then click this 1.25. Again, you do not have to follow the book if you don't want to. This is just giving you some different options. And it's best to lay these out to where they look halfway decent. It's a little tricky here. Okay, once you got that, now we're ready. We're going to go ahead and mirror this across. And to mirror it across, just down below here, click on this little button, and we're going to go ahead and find the mirror curve. We'll select the curve, it selects everything, and then go ahead and click on centerline here, and just click on your x-axis right here, and then hit OK. Alright, at this point we could actually delete the lines in the center if you'd like, or at least keep one. If you click on it, actually right click on it, you'll see that you have the option to convert to reference, and there's still one on there. If you click on it again, hit delete. Oops. You know what, there was actually one there. That's alright, we didn't really need it. It does help with references. The constraints, hit undo there. Okay, we're just going to make sure we keep it because the constraints are locked in, and if we keep it as a center line, we're in good shape. As you can see, the dimensions still remain locked down. Alright, now at this point, we could go ahead and we could finish that sketch. Now, what I like to do generally is I like to copy things. I don't want to have to redraw them. You could redraw each one of these profiles just like we did there. I'm going to try and copy it. And copying inside UG or NX here is a little bit challenging. It took me a little bit to kind of get the hang of it. I'm sure there might actually be an easier way, but this is what I came up with to get the copy and paste, because the copy and paste is kind of bizarre. It's not the same as what you'd expect. It does give you a lot of options, which are nice, and once you get more and more proficient, those options come in handy, believe me. But it can be a little bit difficult for someone new. So what I would suggest is you start a new sketch on the next plane where you want to copy it, and just flip this direction so that the Z is pointing toward you. Hit OK. All right. If it rotates 90 degrees, not to worry. Just continue on your same schedule. It's just be aware you have to draw a little bit different. Now, what I found is by adding a point here on this sketch, it really helped. Okay, hit close, and actually what I want to do is I want to grab the sketch over here, sketch 4, and select copy. Now what you could do is you could go to paste and drop it in on that point, and hit OK, and it should drop in there. Now, I selected inside there the paste. There were some options. If you just go with the default, you're in good shape. You can actually carry over the constraints, and so like change one, the other one will update. I actually, unfortunately, did not check that out. I went a little fast there, but if we double click on here to make sure we're editing this sketch, one thing you can see is that you have P30, P33, different dimensions. If you see that there's like a linked dimension, that's probably linked back to the original, which is the back of the boat, and we don't want to necessarily follow that. What I just did is actually exactly what you want to do, so not to get too complex. Next time I'll show you in a second. Okay, so anyhow, now with these dimensions, we want to go ahead and apply some changes. And if we go back to the book, go on page 64, and we can see we want to zoom up here a little bit. Actually want to increase the sizes here. So 3, 2, and 0.75. So 3, 2, and 0.75. See how it's widening here? And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get the 2.375. and 1.375. You can see we've enlarged it, made it bigger. And we're floating out on that plane that we created. So we hit finish sketch. Now as long as the other sketch does not update, you're in good shape. That would typically be an indicator that they're linked. And I'm going to show you that again. Again, we're going to start a sketch on this next plane. This time we want a much smaller version. Make sure you flip the direction, otherwise it flips you around. It's not a huge deal, but it could be a little bit annoying. Anyhow, I'm going to flip it so Z is pointing toward the tip of the boat. Hit OK. And now again, I could paste onto that. I'm going to rotate a little bit with my middle mouse button. I'm going to go back to paste, and you can see, oh, I forgot. Here, hit cancel. We'll go back to that in a second. I forgot to add the point. First add the point. Close. Otherwise it does some weird things. You can get it on there without the point. It's just that it's a little convoluted. Alright, so we go back now to paste. Click on the point that you just added. And here, just to show you the mapping method, you want create new. Otherwise, if you link to the original or even reuse original, it actually links the dimensions back to the original sketch, and it causes some problems if you make changes like we're about to do. So you don't want to do that. There are other options here for the CSYS. We're just going to go ahead and hit OK to bring it in. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do with this one is we want to go ahead and double click on it to edit it. We could see we're free and clear. There's no links back to the original, and now we're going to make some changes to make this smaller. So section 4 on page 64, we're going to go ahead and make it much smaller. As you can see here, 0.2 by 0.2, the smallest, 0.6756. So we'll actually start with the smaller dimensions here first. 0.2, 0.375, and 0.75. Let me just verify that. Yeah, 0.2, 0.5, 0.675. Okay, too big. Okay, now we have to get with the vertical dimensions. So if you look at the vertical dimensions, we're at 0.2, 0.375, 0.6. Now, it's very helpful to actually have this set up, just like I have it here, where the dimensions are laid out just like the print that we see in the book on page 64. If you don't lay them out quite the same way, it can get confusing and cause some trouble later on when you're trying to add those dimensions. So just be aware of that. Alright, and we're looking pretty good there. Let's go ahead and we're going to hit finish sketch. And now let's move on to the tip. And the tip is very easy. You actually just need a point. So we'll select that. Start our sketch. If you want, you can flip it. Again, it's not a huge deal. If you don't, go to the point, click on that tip, right at the origin, I should say, hit close, and finish sketch. Alright, now at this point, we could go ahead and we could loft between this. Now, the loft here is called through curves. If you don't see these options here, what you do is you click on the far right here of these, what options you do have there, and you'll see add and remove. Oops, wrong one. There we go. Add and remove buttons. And if you go to features, you'll see several of the features here, actually under surface, I believe. Yeah, there we go, surface. And you could check on and off the options you want. We don't really need all the ones that I have up here. I was just playing around with them. But in this case, you want to go with through curves. Make sure through curves is set. Let's go and click on through curves. Okay, now some of these you might have to hit the little arrows to bring them down to get more information. We want the body type to be a solid, first of all. Surfaces are great. In this case, we'll work with the solid here. Now the tolerance, and leave those at current specs, and we're going to go ahead and from here select curve at a point. Now it's important to remember to select in the same order that you selected in for each view, otherwise, or I should say profile, otherwise you get like a twist effect. And we might actually just automatically see it. I'm going to start here in the upper right top. and then move my way around just like that. Now we go over here. If you hit this little add new set, I can go ahead and click and do the same over here, and you can see it starts to kind of warp around. As long as you click in the same order, you're fine. If for some reason it doesn't work out, or if you click on the wrong edges, there's this little option. You click on this, specify origin curve, and you'll be able to flip it around. Okay. Anyway, let's see if I'll try doing that. I'll simulate that. So here we'll go to add new set. I'm going to go in different. And there you see how it's kind of wrapping around. In this case, that's when you click on this little button here, specify origin curve, and you just rearrange it until it looks right. Oops. Back there. There we go. All right. So I don't know if you noticed how I did that. You just click on the surfaces until they come out properly, or the curves. Okay, one more. Click on that point and literally click on the point that you generated. Here you can see it's probably not the best transition. I probably could fix that spline that we added there to make it look better. But anyhow, I just wanted to show you this is one method. And go ahead and hit OK. Now with these planes, if you wanted to, you could adjust them. Like for example, you could double click over here and just grab that arrow. It's kind of neat. Drag it out, make it much longer. You see transition. It's probably unappealing there because I dragged it a bit too far. Let's undo. Anyhow, be aware that you can do that type of fun stuff. Try dragging this to make it a bit longer. Interesting how it kind of wraps around like that. That's not. I wonder if I have if the tip is causing that type of problem. But anyhow, that kind of gives you an idea how you could create what other systems call loft. In this case, it's through curves, and it is a solid. Unfortunately, the top is not flat. I'm not sure if that's a set of that setting the tolerance level. I know in other CAD systems, usually you can sketch right on the top surface if it comes out flat. There must be an option I'm probably missing on here. I think I had found it one time. I just lost it. It's a very strong CAD system. It's just there's a lot of options to have to scroll through. If you did want to build on here, just to show you what you could do, like if you wanted to build like what I had on my like a destroyer I was building, you can do something like that. And for example, in this case, let's make like a sailboat or something. You could start your sketch on this the YZ plane, because remember, base it off the top edge. And go ahead and just hit OK. Now, I'm not going to do a whole lot here, but if you wanted to, you could sketch some geometry. Let's see here. Start from the center, work our way around. I'm just going to use the mirror tool, and I could go ahead and take mirror, select the geometry I want to mirror across, and then the X axis. Okay. I'm not going to fully define it. I'm going to go ahead and extrude that. So we'll hit finish sketch. Or we can just go right to extrude. Now here you might get a little error if you try and have this. If you just hit apply or OK. And here, let me show you. If you hit apply, you'll get the target tools do not conform to complete intersection. And that's where, if you have this type of an issue, you get this little alert. Just close the alert. I would recommend going on for the end distance, go with symmetric value. That means it's going to go below as well. Actually, maybe not symmetric. We'll go with a specific value there. Drag it up, but have it intersect the body. Just don't have it go too low. And then also a couple things you can do. You can add draft, start, hit OK. Then it will merge with it. And really, it's just a matter of building on top of that. And again, always selecting that plane there. Or you could select this surface now because it's nice and flat, or any of the side faces to add whatever you need. And that concludes this exercise.